The morning sun rose over New Busan like it did every other day. Golden light spread across the green fields where farmers were already working. Children ran to school. People drank their coffee and talked about small things. It was a peaceful colony, far from Earth, far from trouble. Nobody knew that everything was about to change. Governor Una Park stood by her office window and watched the colony wake up. She was 52 years old with gray streaks in her black hair. She had led New Busan for 15 years. In all that time, nothing truly bad had ever happened. Some crop failures, a few storms, normal problems with normal solutions. She liked it that way. Her assistant brought her morning reports, trade numbers, weather forecasts, a complaint about noise from the mining district. Una smiled as she read them. These were good problems to have. 12,000 people lived in New Busan. They had come from Earth 3 generations ago, looking for a quiet life among the stars. They found it on this green world at the edge of known space. The Galactic Compact, an alliance of 12 alien species, mostly ignored them. Humans were new to space travel, young, unimportant. The aliens traded with them sometimes but never took them seriously. Una did not mind being ignored. Ignored meant safe. 300 kilometers away, Lieutenant T. Kim was finishing his night patrol. He was 28, tall and lean, with tired eyes from a long shift. He commanded the colony's small security force, 200 officers to protect 12,000 people. It was enough. Crime was rare here. His biggest worry was usually teenagers stealing fruit from farms. T yawned and checked his scanner one last time before heading home. The device showed the usual readings. Birds, animals, nothing special. Then the scanner screamed. T stared at the screen. Dozens of objects were entering the atmosphere, then hundreds. They fell from the sky like metal rain, burning bright as they came down. His hands shook as he zoomed the image. These were not meteors. They were drop pods, military drop pods. Someone was invading New Busan. T grabbed his radio. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Command, this is Lieutenant Kim. We have unknown vessels entering atmosphere. Count is. I cannot count them all. Over 200 confirmed. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The response came fast. "Lieutenant, confirm your report. Are you certain?" "I am looking at them right now," T said. "They are landing in the northern plains. Whoever they are, they brought an army." In her office, Una heard the alarm sirens begin. Her assistant ran in with fear on her face. "Governor, security reports an invasion force. Hundreds of ships landing north of the city." Una felt her heart stop for 1 second. Then 40 years of leadership took over. Fear could wait. Her people needed her now. "Get me a line to the security center," she said. "And wake up Dr. Cho. We are going to need the hospital ready." Dr. Hana Cho was already awake when the call came. She was 45 years old, the colony's chief medical officer and Una's closest friend. She had been reviewing patient files when the sirens started. By the time her phone rang, she was already putting on her shoes. "I heard the sirens," Hana said. "How bad?" "We do not know yet," Una replied. "But I need the hospital prepared for casualties. And Hana, prepare the emergency shelters for children, just in case." Hana understood. "I will handle it. Stay safe, Una." The drop pods landed hard in the northern fields. Their doors burst open and soldiers poured out. They were tall, covered in gray scales, with yellow eyes that burned with cruel intelligence. The Veth, raiders and slavers from beyond compact space. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved millions. Now they had come for New Busan. Overlord Drath stepped out of his command pod and breathed the fresh air. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with scars covering his face from countless battles. He looked at the peaceful colony in the distance and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Such a soft target," he said to his officers. "The humans will break easily. They always do." He had brought 5,000 soldiers, more than enough to crush 200 security officers. The humans had no military ships, no heavy weapons, no allies close enough to help. This would be simple. "Begin the advance," Drath ordered. "I want prisoners, not corpses. Living slaves sell for more." Lieutenant T watched the enemy army form up through his binoculars. His stomach twisted with fear, but his hands stayed steady. 200 against 5,000. Those numbers should have made him want to run. Instead, they made him angry. These monsters had come to his home, to hurt his people, his neighbors, his friends. "All units," he said into his radio, "fall back to defensive positions around the city. We cannot win in the open. Make them fight for every street." Governor Yuna activated the colony's emergency broadcast. Her face appeared on every screen. Her voice came through every speaker. "People of New Busan, we are under attack. I will not lie to you. The enemy is strong and we are few, but I need you to stay calm. Go to the emergency shelters. Protect your children. Our security forces will buy us time." She paused, then said the words that mattered most. "I am activating the quantum relay. Earth will hear us. Help will come. We just need to hold on." Deep beneath the government building, a machine older than the colony itself came to life. The quantum relay could send messages across the galaxy in seconds. It was humanity's greatest invention, a link that connected every human world to Earth. Yuna typed the message herself. Her fingers trembled, but she did not stop. "New Busan under attack by Veth forces, 12,000 civilians, requesting immediate military assistance. We need help." She pressed send. The message flew across the stars, through the darkness of space, all the way to Earth. Overlord Drath received reports that the humans had sent a distress signal. He laughed so hard his officers stared at him. "Let them call for help," he said. "The other compact species never help each other at this distance. Humans are even weaker. They fight among themselves constantly. By the time anyone responds, this colony will be mine." He did not understand humans at all. The first battle began at the edge of the city. T and his officers fought from behind walls and buildings. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but they knew this land. They had lived here all their lives. The Veth advance slowed. Every street became a trap. Every corner hid a defender. Drath's smile faded. "Why are they fighting so hard? They cannot win." His officer shrugged. "Humans are strange, Overlord. They do not know when to surrender." In the hospital, Dr. Hana organized the staff with calm efficiency. She turned the basement into a shelter and gathered all the children she could find. 400 little faces looked up at her, scared and confused. "Everything will be okay," she told them. She hoped she was not lying. Governor Yuna watched the battle reports come in. Her people were dying, good people, brave people, and she could not help them except by hopping. Hopping that Earth heard them. Hopping that someone would come. Hopping that being human meant something. The night fell over New Busan. Fires burned in the distance. Gunfire echoed through empty streets, and somewhere across the galaxy, a message waited to be answered. One cry for help. That was all it took. The message arrived at Earth Command at 3 in the morning, Seoul time. A young communications officer named Jun saw it first. His coffee cup slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. He read the words again, making sure he was not dreaming. "New Busan, attack. 12,000 civilians, help." Jun's hands flew across his console. Within 60 seconds, alarms rang through the entire building. Within 2 minutes, lights came on in every office. Within 5 minutes, Admiral Siak Kang was walking through the doors, still buttoning his uniform. Admiral Siak was 61 years old. He had gray hair cut short and a face like stone. He never smiled. He never raised his voice. He never needed to. When he spoke, people listened. "Show me," he said. Jun played the message. The room fell silent. Officers who had been running around stopped moving. Everyone stared at the screen. "Veth Dominion," Admiral Siak said quietly. "How many?" "Initial reports suggest 5,000 ground troops, sir. Possibly more. They have orbital support ships as well. And New Buson's defenses. 200 security officers. No military vessels. No heavy weapons." Someone in the room whispered a curse. Admiral Siak did not react. His face showed nothing. But his eyes, those who knew him could see cold fire burning there. "Wake the Third Fleet," he said. "Full mobilization. I want every ship ready to launch within 6 hours." An officer hesitated. "Sir, the Third Fleet has 40 warships. Sending them across half the galaxy for one colony. The Council might question the resource expenditure." Admiral Siak turned to look at him. The officer took a step back without meaning to. 12,000 human beings asked for help," the Admiral said. "That is not a question of resources. That is a question of who we are. Wake the fleet." Nobody questioned him again. In the orbital shipyards above Earth, massive shapes began to move. Warships that had been sleeping came alive. Lights flickered on across their hulls. Engines warmed up with a deep hum that shook the stations around them. The carrier Indomitable was the largest of them all, 2 kilometers long, carrying 3,000 Marines and enough firepower to crack a planet. Its captain received the alert while eating breakfast with her daughter. Captain Mina Beek was 38 years old. She had black hair tied back tight, sharp eyes, and a reputation for being the best tactical mind in the fleet. She kissed her daughter goodbye and promised to come home soon. She always kept her promises. "What do we know?" Mina asked as she stepped onto the bridge. Her first officer handed her a tablet. "Veth Dominion attacked New Buson colony. 12,000 civilians under siege. Admiral Siak has ordered full fleet deployment." Mina read the details quickly. Her jaw tightened. "How long until we can launch?" 5 hours if we push it." "Push it? Every minute we waste, people die." The Indomitable's crew worked without rest. Ammunition was loaded. Systems were checked. Marines rushed to their stations. Nobody complained. Nobody asked why they were going so far for one small colony. They already knew why, because humans took care of their own. In the Marine barracks, Sergeant D. Ryu heard the alarm and was on his feet before his eyes fully opened. He was 34 years old, built like a tank, with scars on his arms from 3 different wars. He commanded a squad of orbital drop Marines, the most elite soldiers humanity had ever produced. ODMs were special. They wore heavy armor that could survive falling through atmosphere. They dropped from orbit in metal pods, landing directly in enemy territory. It was dangerous, terrifying, and incredibly effective. Only the best of the best qualified for the program. D gathered his squad in the briefing room. 20 soldiers, all veterans, all ready to fight. "Listen up," he said. "We have civilians under attack. 12,000 people, including children, are counting on us. The enemy thinks humans are weak. They think we will abandon our own people to save resources. They are wrong." He looked at each of his Marines, meeting their eyes one by one. "When we land, we hit them hard and we do not stop. We show them what happens when you touch humanity. Questions?" Nobody had questions. They had only rage and determination. The Galactic Compact heard about the mobilization within hours. Alien ambassadors sent messages to Earth, urging restraint and diplomatic solutions. They did not understand why humans were reacting so strongly. One small colony at the edge of space. It was not worth starting a war. Admiral Siak read their messages. He understood their confusion. The 12 species of the Compact had been in space for thousands of years. They had lost countless colonies to raiders and invaders. They had learned to accept losses, to calculate costs, to be practical. Humans had only been in space for 300 years. They had not learned those lessons. They still remembered what it meant to be family. The admiral composed a polite response, thanking the compact for their concern. Then he continued preparing his fleet for war. 6 hours after the message arrived, 40 Terran warships broke orbit and accelerated toward the jump point. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Observation stations across the solar system tracked their departure with awe. The compact ambassadors watched too. They had never seen humans mobilize this fast. They had never seen humans mobilize at all. For 300 years, humanity had seemed peaceful, divided, focused on internal problems. Now they saw the truth. Humanity had been building, quietly, secretly, preparing for the day when they would need to fight. The 40 ships racing toward New Busan were just a fraction of Earth's true military power. Captain Mina stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as stars stretched into lines around them. FTL travel always looked beautiful, like flying through a river of light. She activated the ship-wide communication system. Her voice reached every corner of the massive vessel, heard by 3,000 Marines and 2,000 crew members. "This is Captain Beak. Most of you know where we are going and why. 12,000 of our people are under attack by the Veth Dominion. They called for help. We answered." She paused, letting the words sink in. "The Veth think humans are weak. They think we will not fight for a colony so far from home. They are about to learn how wrong they are. When we arrive, we will show them the price of touching our people. We will show the entire galaxy what it means to threaten humanity." In the Marine barracks, Sergeant D listened with his squad. He saw the fire in their eyes. They were ready. 19 hours until arrival, Mina continued. "Rest while you can. Prepare your equipment. Say whatever prayers you believe in. When we come out of FTL, we will not stop until every enemy is dead and every civilian is safe." "That is not a promise from your captain. That is a promise from Earth. We take care of our own, always." She ended the transmission. The bridge crew worked in focused silence. There was nothing more to say. In his private quarters, Admiral Siak looked at a photograph on his desk. His granddaughter, smiling, holding flowers she had picked from their garden. She was 8 years old, the same age as children now hiding in shelters on New Busan. He thought about what would happen if no one came to help them. If they were left alone, abandoned, enslaved or killed because someone decided they were not worth saving. His hands formed fists at his sides. "They touched our people," he said quietly to the empty room. "Now they learn what that means." Across the galaxy, the Veth had no idea what was coming. They believed they had all the time in the world. They believed humans were weak and divided. They believed no one would come to help a small colony so far from Earth. They were wrong about everything. The Third Fleet raced through the stars, carrying fire and fury. Humanity was coming, and when humans fought for their own, they did not know how to lose. 19 hours remained. The galaxy was about to change forever. 18 hours had passed since the invasion began. New Busan was burning. Lieutenant T. Kim crouched behind a broken wall, breathing hard. Blood ran down his left arm from a wound he did not remember getting. His rifle was almost empty. Half his officers were dead. The other half were scattered across the city, fighting their own desperate battles. But they were still fighting. That was what mattered. "Report," he said into his radio, keeping his voice steady. Answers came back, broken by static and gunfire. 30 defenders at the market square, 15 at the water plant, 22 at the school, numbers that should have made him despair. Instead, they filled him with fierce pride. 5,000 enemy soldiers, and his people were still standing. The Veth did not understand. They advanced in neat formations, expecting the humans to break and run. Instead, they found traps, ambushes, snipers who disappeared after every shot. The aliens had superior weapons and numbers, but they did not know this land. They did not know these streets. And they did not understand how hard humans could fight when protecting their homes. Overlord Drath paced inside his command post, his yellow eyes burning with anger. This should have been finished hours ago. A simple raid, easy prey, quick profit. Now his forces were bogged down in urban warfare against farmers and shopkeepers. "How many have we lost?" he demanded. His officer checked the reports nervously. 300 dead, Overlord. Nearly 1,000 wounded. Against 200 defenders. They fight like cornered animals, sir. They do not surrender. They do not retreat. Every building becomes a fortress. Drath slammed his fist against the wall. Cracks spread through the metal. "Then bring up the heavy armor. Level the buildings. I am done playing games with these insects." In the hospital basement, 400 children huddled together. Some cried quietly. Others stared at nothing, too scared to make a sound. Dr. Hanacho moved among them, checking for injuries, offering comfort, being strong when she wanted to scream. "Is my mom coming?" a small boy asked, grabbing her hand. Hana knelt down to meet his eyes. "Your mom is somewhere safe, and help is coming for all of us. You just need to be brave a little longer. Can you do that?" The boy nodded, wiping his tears. Hana hugged him gently, then moved on to the next child who needed her. She had been awake for 18 hours. Her hands shook when she was not watching, but she could not stop. These children needed her. This was her battle, and she would not lose it. Governor Unipark stood in the command center, watching the tactical display. Red dots showed enemy positions. Blue dots showed her defenders. There were so few blue dots left. "Ma'am," an officer said, "the Veth are bringing heavy vehicles, tanks. Our people cannot stop them." Una closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was calm. "Pull everyone back to the inner ring. Concentrate our forces around the civilian shelters. We hold there." "For how long?" "Until help arrives." The officer wanted to ask if help was really coming. He could see the doubt in everyone's eyes. Earth was so far away. Why would they send their fleet across the galaxy for one small colony? But he saw something else in Governor Yuna's eyes. Faith. Absolute, unshakable faith. "Yes, ma'am," he said, and went to relay the orders. Lieutenant T received the withdrawal order. He did not want to give up ground, but he understood. They could not fight tanks with rifles. Better to fall back, concentrate, and make their last stand count. "All units," he said, "fall back to the inner ring. Make them pay for every meter." He grabbed a wounded officer and helped him walk. They moved through burning streets, past broken buildings, stepping over bodies. Some of the bodies wore Veth armor. That gave T grim satisfaction. By the time they reached the inner defensive line, only 67 of the original 200 defenders remained. 67 exhausted, wounded, terrified people who refused to give up. T looked at them and felt his heart swell. These were not soldiers. They were security officers, trained to break up bar fights and write parking tickets. Now they stood against an army. "I know you are tired," T said. "I know you are scared, I am too. But behind us are 12,000 people who need us. Behind us are children in the hospital basement. We are the last line, and we do not break." Nobody cheered. They were too exhausted for that, but they stood straighter. They checked their weapons. They prepared to fight. Overlord Drath watched his tanks roll toward the human defensive line. Finally, this would end. The heavy vehicles would crush their pathetic barricades. His soldiers would pour through. The surviving humans would be captured, chained, and sold. He imagined the profit this raid would bring. Human slaves were rare and valuable. They worked hard, lived long, and were surprisingly durable. This colony would make him rich. "Overlord," his communications officer interrupted. "Shall we broadcast surrender terms?" Drath smiled, showing his teeth. "Yes, tell them they have 1 hour. Surrender completely or we will kill every last one of them. No exceptions, no mercy." Governor Yuna received the ultimatum. 1 hour to surrender or die. She read it 3 times, making sure she understood. Then she deleted it without responding. "Ma'am," her aide asked, confused. "I will not surrender our people to slavery," Yuna said. "If we die free. That is the human way." She walked to the communications console and recorded one final message. This one went to Earth. "This is Governor Park of New Busan. We have held for 18 hours. 67 defenders remain. The enemy is preparing a final assault with heavy armor. We cannot stop them." Her voice cracked slightly. She steadied herself and continued. "I do not know if anyone is coming. I do not know if this message will matter. But I want Earth to know that we fought. We did not give up. We did not surrender. Whatever happens next, remember us." She paused, then added quietly, "Still here, still fighting, please hurry." The message flew across the stars. Overlord Drath counted down the hour with growing anticipation. When the time was up, he gave the order. His tanks rumbled forward. His infantry followed in waves. The final assault had begun. Then his sensor officer made a strange sound, something between a gasp and a whimper. "Overlord, we have contacts. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL directly in orbit." Drath frowned. "Compact observers, tell them to leave. This is not their concern." "They are not compact, sir. They are human, 40 warships, and they are launching weapons." For the first time in his life, Overlord Drath felt real fear. In the sky above New Busan, stars seemed to tear open. Ships appeared from nothing, their hulls gleaming with weapons that already glowed with charging energy. The Terran Third Fleet had arrived. Captain Mina Beak stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the tactical display. The Veth orbital ships were scrambling, trying to form up for defense. They were too slow, way too slow. "All ships," Mina said, her voice cold as space, "weapons free. Show them the price of touching humanity." The human fleet opened fire. On the ground, Lieutenant T saw the flashes in the sky. Bright lights, then explosions among the stars. He did not understand at first. Then his radio crackled with a transmission on all frequencies. "New Busan Colony, this is Captain Mina Beak of the Terran carrier Indomitable. The Third Fleet has arrived. Reinforcements are inbound. Hold your positions." T stared at the sky. Tears ran down his face, mixing with blood and dirt. "They came," he whispered. "They actually came." Around him, the other defenders heard the message. Some laughed, some cried, some just stood in stunned silence. Governor Yuna heard it too. She grabbed the edge of her console, her legs suddenly weak. 18 hours of fear and despair vanished in an instant. Earth had heard them. Earth had answered. In the hospital basement, Dr. Hana heard the cheers from above. A nurse ran down to tell her the news. For the first time in 18 hours, Hana let herself smile. "Help is here," she told the children. "I told you someone would come." Overlord Drath watched his orbital fleet burn. Human weapons tore through his ships like paper. In minutes, he lost half his space support. In minutes more, he would lose all of it. "Impossible," he said. "They crossed half the galaxy for this worthless colony. They came so fast, how?" Nobody answered him. His officers were too busy panicking. Drath looked up at the sky full of fire and death. 40 human warships against his 12 support vessels. It was not a battle, it was an execution. And somehow, impossibly, it was only beginning. Captain Mina watched the enemy fleet die with cold satisfaction. Then she gave the next order. "Launch the Marines, all of them. Show these monsters what happens when you threaten human lives." 3,000 orbital drop Marines began falling from the sky. Hell was coming to New Busan. And the Veth had invited it. The sky burned with falling stars. 3,000 metal pods screamed through the atmosphere, each one carrying an orbital drop Marine in heavy armor. They fell faster than any aircraft, faster than missiles, like the fist of an angry god coming down on the enemy. Sergeant D. Ryu counted the seconds in his head. The drop pod shook violently around him, heat shields glowing orange outside the tiny window. He had done this dozens of times, but it never got easier. Falling from space was not something humans were built for. They did it anyway. 30 seconds to impact, his helmet computer announced. Brace for landing. The ground rushed up to meet him. At the last moment, retro rockets fired, slowing the pod just enough. Then impact. The pod slammed into the ground hard enough to crack stone. The door blew open. D was already moving, rifle up, scanning for targets. He had landed right in the middle of a Veth formation. Alien soldiers stared at him in shock, frozen by confusion. 1 second they had been advancing on the human defenders. The next second, metal boxes were raining from the sky all around them. D did not give them time to think. He opened fire. His rifle was designed for ODMs, heavier and more powerful than standard weapons. Each shot punched through Veth armor like it was made of paper. The aliens screamed and scattered, but there was nowhere to run. More drop pods were landing every second. More Marines were joining the fight. "First squad on me," D called through his radio. "Push toward the enemy command post. Kill everything in your path." 20 Marines formed up around him. They moved like a machine, each one covering the others, each one knowing exactly what to do. They had trained for this their entire lives. The Veth tried to fight back. They outnumbered the Marines almost 2 to 1. It did not matter. Human weapons were better, human armor was stronger, and human fury was something the Veth had never faced before. Overlord Drath received report after report, each one worse than the last. His orbital fleet was destroyed. His ground forces were being torn apart by armored demons falling from the sky. His tanks, the weapons that should have ended this battle, were being targeted by orbital strikes. The humans had not just come to save their colony, they had come to destroy him. "Retreat," he ordered. "Pull back to the landing zone, we need to evacuate." His officers tried to relay the order, but it was too late. Human Marines had cut his communication lines. His army was fragmenting, each unit fighting alone, dying alone. Drath grabbed his personal guard and ran. Lieutenant T. Kim watched the battle from the defensive line, his mouth hanging open in awe. He had seen war before, but nothing like this. Human Marines moved through Veth positions like a storm, leaving only bodies behind. "Should we advance?" one of his officers asked. T shook his head. "No, stay here, protect the civilians, let the Marines do their work." He was a security officer, not a soldier. His job was to keep people safe, not to kill enemies. The Marines clearly did not need his help anyway. But he could not stop watching, could not stop feeling fierce pride at what he saw. This was humanity's answer to the attack. This was what happened when someone hurt their people. Captain Mina coordinated the battle from orbit, watching dozens of camera feeds at once. Her officers tracked enemy positions and called in strikes. Her fighters swept the sky, destroying any Veth aircraft that tried to escape. "Enemy forces in full retreat," her tactical officer reported. "They're running for their landing zone." "Don't let them reach it," Mina ordered. "Destroy their transports. None of them leave this planet." She felt no mercy. These creatures had come to enslave human children. They deserved nothing but death. The last Veth transports exploded under orbital fire. Thousands of alien soldiers were now trapped on the surface with no way to escape. The hunters had become the prey. Sergeant D and his squad reached the enemy command post. It was a prefabricated building, heavily defended by Drath's personal guard. The elite Veth soldiers were bigger, stronger, and better equipped than regular troops. They lasted about 3 minutes. D kicked down the door and found Overlord Drath inside, backed against the wall, surrounded by the bodies of his last defenders. The massive alien held a weapon in each hand, but his arms were shaking. "Stay back," Drath hissed. I am an overlord of the Dominion. Kill me and my people will hunt you forever. D walked toward him slowly, his rifle aimed at Drath's head. Your fleet is destroyed. Your army is dead. Your transports are burning. Nobody is coming to help you. He stopped a meter away, close enough to see the fear in those yellow eyes. You came here to enslave our people, D said. You came to take our children and sell them like property. Now tell me, Overlord, what did you think would happen? Drath's fear turned to confusion. We attack colonies all the time. The compact species never respond like this. They calculate costs. They accept losses. Why did you come so far for such a small settlement? D almost laughed. The alien truly did not understand. After everything that had happened, he still did not understand. Because they asked for help, D said. That is all we needed. He pulled the trigger. The battle ended 2 hours after it began. 5,000 Veth soldiers were dead. Not captured, not defeated, dead. Humanity had not come to win a battle, they had come to make a statement. Sergeant D walked through the ruins of the enemy camp, checking bodies. His Marines moved around him, securing the area, treating wounded colonists, counting the cost of victory. It had not been free. 43 Marines died in the assault. Good soldiers who gave their lives for people they had never met. D would remember each of them. He would make sure Earth remembered them too. Governor Unipark met Captain Mina Beak at the edge of the city. The two women stood among the rubble, surrounded by soldiers and civilians, exhausted and bloody but alive. Governor, Mina said, offering a salute. Captain Mina Beak, Terran carrier indomitable, we came as fast as we could. Una stared at her for a long moment. Then she stepped forward and hugged her, holding tight, shoulders shaking with sobs she had held back for almost 20 hours. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for coming. Mina hugged her back. We will always come. That is what we do. In the hospital basement, Dr. Hana Cho finally let herself cry. The children were safe. Marines had arrived to protect them, to give them food and water and blankets. Parents were being reunited with their sons and daughters. A little boy ran past her, shouting, Mama. As he saw his mother through the crowd, Hana watched them embrace and felt something warm in her chest. This was worth fighting for. This was worth everything. Lieutenant T. Kim sat on a pile of rubble, too tired to stand. A medic was treating his wounded arm, but he barely felt it. He was looking at the sky, where human warships still circled like protective giants. You okay, sir? The medic asked. T thought about the question. 20 hours ago, his life had been quiet and simple. Now he had fought in a war. He had watched friends die. He had seen his world almost destroyed. And he had seen humanity answer when their people needed them. Yeah, he said finally, I think I am. Captain Mina returned to the Indomitable as night fell over New Busan. She stood on the bridge, looking down at the damaged colony through the viewport. Fires still burned in some places. Recovery would take months, maybe years. But the people were alive. That was what mattered. Ma'am, her first officer said, Admiral Siak is requesting a report. Mina nodded. Tell him the mission is complete, all enemy forces destroyed, the colony is secure, our people are safe. She paused, then added, and tell him we are not going anywhere. We stay until New Busan does not need us anymore. Her first officer smiled. Yes, ma'am. The night passed slowly. Human Marines patrolled the streets, protecting survivors, searching for any remaining threats. Medical teams from the fleet set up field hospitals, treating the wounded regardless of whether they were soldiers or farmers or children. Humanity took care of its own. And the galaxy watched. Across the stars, other species received reports of what happened at New Busan. They saw the speed of the human response. They saw the overwhelming force. They saw that not a single Veth soldier was allowed to escape. The message was clear. Touch humanity at your own risk. They will come for you. And when they do, they will not stop until you are dust. 1 month after the battle, New Busan was rebuilding. The streets were clear of rubble. New buildings rose where old ones had fallen. Children played in parks that had been battlefields just weeks before. Life was returning to normal, slowly but surely. Governor Una Park walked through the colony center, greeting people she passed. Everyone smiled at her now. Everyone wanted to shake her hand or hug her or just say thank you. She had held them together through the darkest night. She had kept faith when faith seemed foolish. She stopped at a memorial wall that had been built in the main square. Names were carved into the stone. 133 colonists had died during the invasion. Security officers, volunteers, people who just happened to be in the wrong place. Their names would never be forgotten. A young woman approached her holding flowers. "Governor, I wanted to thank you. My brother is on that wall. He died defending the water plant." Una took her hand gently. "Your brother was a hero, they all were." "I know," the woman said. "I just wish I could thank the soldiers who came to save us. Without them, we would all be on that wall." Una looked up at the sky where she knew human warships still orbited. "They know, trust me, they know." Lieutenant T. Kim was no longer a lieutenant. 3 days after the battle, he received a message from Earth Command. His actions during the invasion had been reviewed. He was being offered a promotion to captain and a position in the Terran Defense Force. He stood in Governor Una's office, holding the message, unsure what to say. "You should accept," Una told him. "You have a gift for leadership. Earth needs people like you." "But New Busan needs me too." Una smiled. "New Busan will be fine. We have new security officers coming from Earth. We have a military garrison now, and we have something more important." "What?" "We have the knowledge that we are never alone. Go T. Go protect other colonies the way you protected this one." T looked at the message again. Then he looked at the woman who had taught him what leadership meant. "Thank you, Governor, for everything. Thank you, Captain Kim, for not giving up." Dr. Hana Cho received a medal, the Terran Medal of Valor, given to civilians who showed extraordinary courage. Admiral Siak himself came to New Busan to present it to her. She almost refused. "I just protected children. Anyone would have done the same." "Anyone would have tried," the Admiral said. "You succeeded. 400 children survived because of you. That matters." Hana looked at the medal in her hands. It was heavy, made of real gold, with an inscription on the back, "For service above self." "What will you do now?" Admiral Siak asked. "Keep being a doctor," Hana said. "Keep taking care of people. It is all I know how to do." The Admiral nodded. "The galaxy needs more people like you, Dr. Cho. Never forget that." On Earth, the news of New Busan spread everywhere. People watched recordings of the battle. They saw their fleet arrive. They saw Marines falling from the sky. They saw a small colony saved from slavery because someone somewhere heard their call for help. Admiral Siak held a press conference. Reporters asked questions about the excessive response, about the resources spent, about whether it was practical to send 40 warships across the galaxy for one small settlement. The Admiral listened to each question patiently. Then he gave his answer. "New Busan has 12,000 people. Farmers, teachers, doctors, children. They were attacked without warning by an enemy that wanted to enslave them. They called for help. We answered." He paused, looking directly into the cameras. "Some ask if this was excessive. I ask a different question. What would happen if we did not respond? What message would that send? That humanity abandons its own, that some colonies matter less than others, that there is a price tag on human lives." His voice grew harder. "There is no such thing as excessive when protecting our people. Not then, not now, not ever. Every human being anywhere in the galaxy deserves to know that if they call for help, help will come. That is not just policy, that is who we are." The reporters had no more questions. The Galactic Compact held an emergency session. Representatives from all 12 species gathered to discuss the human situation. Most of them had never taken humanity seriously. They were newcomers, barely 300 years in space, still fighting among themselves over borders and resources. Then they watched the recordings from New Busan. They saw a human fleet cross half the galaxy in less than a day. They saw weapons technology that matched or exceeded their own. They saw Marines fighting with a ferocity that no other species could match. And they saw a message, delivered clearly through action: humanity protects its own. The compact ambassador from the oldest species, beings who had been traveling stars for 10,000 years, spoke first. We miscalculated. We saw human conflicts and assumed weakness. We saw division and assumed fragmentation. We were wrong. They are still divided, another ambassador said. They argue constantly among themselves. Yes, until someone threatens their people. Then they become one. Their weakness is an illusion. Their unity is real. The session continued for hours. In the end, they reached a conclusion that changed galactic politics forever. Humanity was not to be threatened, not to be underestimated, not to be ignored. The young species had grown up, and the galaxy needed to adapt. The Veth Dominion sent diplomats to Earth 2 weeks after the battle, not to demand reparations, not to threaten revenge. They came to ask for peace. Their fleet had been destroyed. Their army had been wiped out. And now human warships patrolled the border of their space, a silent promise of what would happen if they ever attacked again. The Veth leaders were not fools. They understood power, and they had seen human power unleashed. Admiral Siak received them politely. He listened to their offers. He accepted their peace treaty. Then he gave them a warning. Touch our people again, and we will not stop at one fleet. We will come for your homeworld. We will come for everything you have. There will be nothing left but dust and memory. Do you understand? The Veth understood. They would never attack a human colony again. On New Busan, a year after the invasion, a little girl named Sue asked her mother a question. They were sitting in the memorial park, looking up at the stars. The names of the fallen surrounded them, carved in stone, lit by soft lights. It was a peaceful place now, a place for remembering. "Mama," Sue said, "why did the soldiers come so far to save us?" Her mother thought about the question. She remembered that terrible night, hiding in the shelter, hearing explosions outside, praying for help that seemed impossible. She remembered the moment when they heard the ships had arrived, the moment when hope became real. "Because that is what humans do," she said finally. "We take care of each other, no matter how far away, no matter how hard it is. If one of us needs help, the others come." Sue considered this with the seriousness of a child working through a big idea, even if they do not know us. Even then, because we are all family, Sue, every human everywhere, we might argue sometimes, we might disagree, but when someone hurts one of us, we stand together. Sue nodded slowly, then she smiled. "I like being human." Her mother hugged her tight. "Me too, sweetheart, me too." Above them, the stars sparkled in the night sky. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the darkness, watching for threats, ready to respond. Somewhere out there, other colonies slept safely, knowing they were not alone. One shout for help was all it took. That was the lesson the galaxy learned. Humanity heard its children calling from the dark, and humanity answered with fire and fury and unwavering love. They would always answer. That was the human way. And now the whole galaxy knew it. The end.